Cliff had always found solace in the woods. The towering pines of Bangor, Maine, wrapped around him like an old friend, their whispering needles a calming melody against the backdrop of his solitary life. At 45, he was a logger, a profession as rugged and timeless as the trees he felled. Each morning he would rise before dawn, the faint light of daybreak spilling through the thin curtains of his modest cabin. With the sun barely a whisper on the horizon, he brewed a pot of coffee, the rich aroma filling the small space, mingling with the scent of aged wood and the lingering smoke from last night's fire. It was a familiar ritual that grounded him, a moment of peace before he stepped out into the chaos of the day. He would sit at the rickety kitchen table, the radio crackling softly in the background, playing classic country tunes. That morning, it played a tune from Johnny Cash, the deep baritone weaving through the air like a comforting embrace. Cliff glanced at the framed photograph on the wall. A smiling boy casting a fishing line into a shimmering lake, his father standing proudly beside him. It was a moment frozen in time, a memory too bright for the shadows that now loomed over them. After his father's sudden passing, Cliff had avoided that lake, the dock now a ghost of happiness he could no longer bear to visit. With a sigh, Cliff donned his well-worn flannel shirt and sturdy boots, the fabric soft against his skin from years of use. He grabbed his chainsaw, the weight of it familiar in his hands, and stepped outside into the crisp morning air. A dense fog hung low, wrapping the forest in an ethereal blanket as he made his way to the worksite. As he trudged along the narrow path, the crunch of twigs underfoot accompanied the sound of the chainsaw idling in his mind. He had spent countless hours among the pines, the rhythm of his work a steady heartbeat in a life often marked by silence. The solitude didn't bother him. He had grown accustomed to it, embraced it even. His neighbors, few and far between, were kind but distant. Most had their own burdens to bear, and Cliff respected their space just as they respected his. He occasionally shared a wave or a nod, but much of his life was spent in the company of trees and the echo of his chainsaw slicing through bark. As he reached the fallen pine that awaited his attention, he took a moment to admire the beauty of the forest, sunlight piercing through the canopy, illuminating the dew-kissed leaves. The world felt alive, yet Cliff remained a ghost, a solitary figure among the whispers of nature. He revved the chainsaw, a mechanical growl that shattered the morning stillness. As he began his work, the sensation of the saw vibrating through his arms brought a familiar comfort. This was his sanctuary, the life he had chosen. Yet, a nagging thought lingered at the back of his mind. What lay buried beneath the surface? What shadows awaited him in the heart of the woods? With every cut, he felt the ground beneath him shift, both physically and emotionally. It was a daily routine, yet today, as he pressed deeper, the unease stirred as if the forest was alive, watching, waiting. The weight of his past clung to him like the damp air, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. Little did he know, even the steadfast trees had secrets, and today they would reveal more than he ever anticipated. Cliff settled into the rhythm of the chainsaw, the vibrations thrumming through his body like an old song. Each cut felt satisfying, the freshly severed logs tumbling to the forest floor, their scent rich and earthy. As he worked, the familiarity of the task brought a sense of peace over him, a temporary escape from the intricacies of memory and grief that often clouded his mind. Yet in the quiet moments between cuts, he could still hear the whispers of what lay hidden within those shadows. The sun climbed higher, sending dappled light through the treetops. Cliff took a break, wiping the sweat from his brow with the back of his hand. He leaned against a nearby tree, its bark rough against his back. He closed his eyes for a moment, listening to the sounds of the forest, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a woodpecker, and the soft wind that threaded through the branches. It was a symphony of nature that had composed itself around him, an echo of life that felt almost like a conversation. In that momentary stillness, his thoughts drifted back to his childhood. He remembered the joy of long summer days spent at the lake with his father. They would fish together, sharing stories and laughter that mingled with the gentle lapping of water against the dock. Cliff could still hear his father's voice, rich and warm, guiding him through the art of casting a line and waiting patiently for a nibble. Those were the days when the world felt wide open, full of promise and innocence. But then the memories shifted, darkened by the spectre of loss. His father's unexpected passing had changed everything, turning the vibrant hues of his childhood into muted tones of regret and sorrow. After the funeral, Cliff had retreated into the woods, avoiding the lake that had once been a source of joy. He still felt the weight of his father's absence, a constant reminder that some bonds were never meant to be severed. Shaking off the melancholy, Cliff returned to work. He was determined to keep moving, to carve his path through the forest, even if the shadows of the past lingered like ghosts. He focused on the logs, making quick work of them until the sun began to dip low in the sky, casting long shadows across the forest floor. It was time to pack up for the day. As he loaded the last of the logs onto his truck, he glanced around the clearing, satisfaction settling in his bones. He had poured himself into the day's work, yet there was still a nagging thought gnawing at him. The box he had uncovered earlier. It felt like more than just an object. It was a key to something he had long buried. Driving home along the winding dirt roads, the landscape blurred past him. The trees stood tall and proud, yet they felt different now, as if they were witnesses to his inner turmoil. With each bump in the road, the box rattled in the back, a constant reminder of the mystery waiting to unfold. Once home, he set the chainsaw aside and retrieved the metal box. It felt heavier than he remembered, its rusted surface stained with the earth of the forest. Cliff sat at the edge of his porch, the evening air cool against his skin, and opened the box once more. The faded photographs stared back at him, a window into another time, another life. He picked up the first Polaroid, studying the young boy with the bright smile. There was something unsettling about how familiar the boy looked. It was like staring into a mirror, reflecting a time he had tried to forget. The laughter captured in that moment felt both foreign and achingly familiar, tugging at his heartstrings. Cliff shifted through the photos, each one a fragment of a life he felt disconnected from. There was a picture of a family picnic, his father's arm slung over his mother's shoulder, both of them smiling as if they held the world in their hands. His mother, with her auburn hair shining in the sun, looked so happy, so free. "What happened to us?" he whispered into the night, the question lingering in the cool air. He felt a pang of guilt as he thought about his mother, whose silence since his father's death had become a heavy blanket that smothered any conversation about the past. They had both suffered, yet they had taken such different paths in coping with their grief. While Cliff buried himself in work, his mother had retreated into silence, sealing away the memories as if they were too painful to bear. A low rumble of thunder echoed in the distance, drawing his attention. The sky was darkening with heavy clouds, the promise of rain hanging in the air. He stood up, placing the box carefully on the porch. As he glanced back at the photographs, he realized they held secrets, clues to a past he had avoided for too long. Inside the house, he shuffled around, gathering some comfort items, a half-eaten sandwich, a bottle of water, and a small blanket. He settled into his worn-out armchair by the window, the storm brewing outside, casting shadows on the walls. The box sat on the coffee table before him, an inviting enigma. Cliff took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle around him. He reached for the box, pulling it closer. He felt a mixture of fear and anticipation as he flipped through the photographs again, searching for something he couldn't quite name, answers, perhaps, or at least a way to bridge the chasm that had formed between him and his family. The first photograph drew him in once more. He felt a rush of emotion as he stared at the boy's face, his own face, and something clicked inside him. It was as if the boy was reaching out, urging him to confront the memories he had buried deep within himself. Then he spotted a note tucked beneath the last photograph. It was faint, the ink nearly faded, but as he unfolded it, the familiar handwriting sent shivers down his spine. It was his mother's, but the words were unfamiliar. "I'm sorry for what I couldn't show you. There are things you must understand about our past. Please forgive me." The storm outside intensified, a sharp crack of lightning illuminating the room for a brief moment. Cliff's heart raced as he processed the words. "Forgive me." The phrase echoed in his mind like a mantra, weaving through his thoughts. What had she kept hidden? What had she been too afraid to reveal? The weight of the note pressed against him, urging him to dive deeper into the past and confront the shadows that lingered in the corners of his mind. The rain began to fall in earnest, heavy droplets tapping against the window like a heartbeat. Cliff felt the stirrings of something within him, a longing to connect the pieces of his history, to understand the silence that had enveloped his family for so long. He looked back at the photographs, determination settling over him. He had spent too long running from the past, letting the shadows dictate his life. It was time to face them, to dig up the roots of sorrow and forgiveness buried beneath the surface. The storm outside mirrored the storm within him, and as thunder rumbled in the distance, Cliff knew he was ready to confront the truths that had haunted him, to seek understanding, and perhaps to mend the wounds that had festered for too long. With a sense of purpose, he picked up the box and the photographs, clutching them tightly in his hands. He would share what he had discovered with his mother. They would face the shadows together. The next morning, the storm had cleared, leaving behind a fresh scent in the air. Cliff felt a sense of renewal as he drove to his mother's house. The sun bathed the landscape in warm light, illuminating the patches of green that seemed to come alive after the rain. He could feel hope blossoming within him, a delicate flower breaking through the rocky surface of grief. Arriving at his childhood home, Cliff parked his truck and took a moment to gather himself. The small, familiar house stood as it always had, but to Cliff, it felt different now. It carried the weight of untold stories and emotions yet to be shared. He walked up the porch steps, the creaking wood beneath his feet echoing the passage of time. He knocked on the door, each tap a drumbeat in his chest. After a moment, his mother opened it, her face a blend of surprise and concern. "Cliff?" she asked softly, her voice trembling slightly. "Hey, Mom," he replied, forcing a smile as he stepped inside. The interior felt the same, cozy and worn with family memories. The scent of freshly baked bread wafted through the air, mingling with the familiar smells that had always made this place feel like home. Yet there was an underlying tension, an unspoken acknowledgement of the distance that had grown between them. "I was just about to have some lunch," she said, her eyes flicking to the box he held tightly in his hands. "What's that?" Cliff hesitated, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. "I found something in the woods yesterday, something that made me think of us." Her brow furrowed and he could see the flicker of apprehension in her eyes. "What do you mean?" He took a deep breath, summoning the courage he needed. "Photographs, Mom, from when we were happy, and a note you wrote." The color drained from her face as she stepped back slightly, as if the very mention of the past had sent a chill down her spine. "Cliff, I don't know if it's a good idea to go back there." "Why not?" he pressed, the urgency in his voice rising. "Why can't we talk about it? What happened to us after Dad died? We can't keep pretending everything is fine when it's not." His mother looked away, her gaze drifting to the window, as if searching for an escape. "It's not that simple." "No, it isn't," he said, his voice firm yet gentle. "But we owe it to ourselves to face it, to understand what happened." Tears glistened in her eyes as she turned back to him. "I thought I was protecting you by keeping it quiet, but all I did was build walls between us." Cliff stepped forward, the box trembling slightly in his grip. "Please, let's open this together. Let's face the past. I don't want to keep living in silence anymore." His mother looked at the box, then back at him, as if weighing her options. After a long pause, she nodded slowly. "Okay, let's see what's inside." They moved to the kitchen table, a familiar space that had seen countless family dinners and conversations over the years. Cliff set the box down carefully, the weight of it feeling lighter now that they were about to share its contents. He opened it slowly, revealing the photographs and the note tucked within. As he spread the photographs out before them, he watched his mother's expression shift from apprehension to a deep yearning. Each image held a piece of their history, a fragment of laughter, a moment of joy, a reminder of what had been lost. Cliff pointed to the first photograph, the boy with the bright smile. "This was me, right? At the lake with Dad?" His mother nodded, a bittersweet smile breaking through her sadness. "You were so happy then. Your father loved taking you fishing. He wanted you to know the joy of spending time in nature." Cliff could feel the warmth of her words wrapping around him, but there was also an undercurrent of sorrow. "And after he died, everything changed." "Yes," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I didn't know how to cope. I was so lost in my grief that I couldn't help you navigate yours." "But we could have helped each other," Cliff said softly. "We could have talked about it instead of living in silence." "I was afraid," she admitted, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Afraid of losing you too. I thought if I kept the memories buried, we would be okay." "But they weren't buried, Mom," Cliff replied gently. "They were just waiting for us to find them, for us to face them together." He reached for the note and handed it to her. "This was your apology. You were asking for forgiveness, but I don't want you to feel guilty. I just want us to heal." His mother took the note, her trembling hands brushing against the paper. "I wrote that so long ago, I thought if I could just keep my feelings hidden, we could move on." "We can't move on until we face what happened," Cliff said, his voice steady and kind. "Let's talk about Dad, about the good times and the hard times. It's time to share the burden." As they sat together, surrounded by the photographs and the memories they had tried to forget, Cliff felt a shift in the air. The storm of their past was finally beginning to clear, making way for understanding and healing. Over the next few hours they talked about fishing trips, family dinners, and the love that had once filled their home. They spoke of the pain of loss, of the loneliness that had crept in like a thief in the night, stealing away their connection to each other. Cliff shared the memories that haunted him, the echoes of laughter now silenced, the absence of his father's guidance, and the way those memories had shaped his life. His mother listened, her heart breaking as she realized how deeply the silence had affected them both. "I'm so sorry, Cliff," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I never meant to push you away. I thought I was protecting you. But I see now that I only isolated us from each other." Cliff reached out, squeezing her hand. "We can't change the past, Mom, but we can learn from it. We can rebuild what was lost." As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow through the kitchen window, Cliff felt a flicker of hope. Together, they had taken the first step toward healing, a step toward reclaiming their history and their connection. The photographs lay scattered across the table like pieces of a puzzle waiting to be put together. Cliff could see their future taking shape, filled with laughter, shared stories, and a renewed understanding of the love that had once bound them. As they continued to talk, Cliff felt the weight of the past begin to lift, replaced by a sense of relief and possibility. They were no longer bound by silence. They were learning to embrace their memories, both joyful and painful. In that moment, Cliff realized that healing was not a destination but a journey they would take together, step by step, as they faced the shadows of their past and moved toward the light of understanding. And so, with photographs and memories scattered across the table, Cliff knew they would begin again, learning to navigate their grief and their love as they ventured into the unknown together. In the days that followed their heartfelt conversation, Cliff and his mother began to forge a new path together, one paved with honesty and shared memories. The photographs that had once been a source of pain now served as a bridge, connecting them through the laughter and love they had shared long ago. Each image brought forth stories that had been buried under layers of grief, and with each retelling, the shadows of their past began to recede. Cliff found himself at the kitchen table more often, sitting across from his mother as they pored over the photographs. They would pick a picture, and the memories would flow like a gentle current, washing away the silence that had marked their relationship for too long. The family picnics by the lake, the fishing trips where his father taught him how to cast a line, and the small celebrations that had filled their home with joy became threads weaving a vibrant tapestry of their lives. One afternoon, while sorting through the photographs, Cliff stumbled upon one that made his heart skip a beat. It was a picture of his father standing proudly beside a brand new wooden boat, sunlight glinting off its polished surface. Cliff's eyes widened with excitement. "Mom, look at this," he exclaimed, pointing to the image. "Do you remember this day?" His mother looked over, her eyes softening as she took in the sight of her husband beaming with pride. "Oh, I do," she said, a smile breaking through her reminiscing. He had saved up for months to buy that boat. It was his dream to take us out on the lake for fishing trips. Cliff chuckled, remembering the thrill of being out on the water, feeling the breeze against his face as his father navigated through the shimmering lake. "We had some great times, didn't we?" "Yes, we did," his mother replied, her voice laced with nostalgia. "Your father loved being on the water. He would talk for hours about fishing techniques and the best spots to catch trout." They drifted into silence, each lost in their memories, until Cliff spoke up again. "You know, I've been thinking, maybe we should take that boat out again. It's been years since we've been on the lake." His mother hesitated, uncertainty crossing her face. "Oh, Cliff, I don't know. The lake has been a painful reminder since your father passed. I'm not sure if I can go back there." Cliff reached across the table, his hand resting gently over hers. "I understand, Mom, but maybe facing that pain is part of healing. We can honor Dad by remembering the good times we had. It doesn't have to be a place of sadness." His mother looked into his eyes, searching for reassurance. "You really think we could do that?" "I do," he said with conviction. "We can take it one step at a time. I'll be there with you. We can bring the photographs along and share those stories." After a long moment, she nodded slowly, a spark of determination igniting in her expression. "Okay, let's do it. Let's go to the lake." The following weekend, they set out early in the morning, the sun rising in a blaze of orange and pink against the clear sky. Cliff could feel excitement bubbling within him as they drove toward the lake, the familiar winding roads flanked by towering trees. When they arrived at the lake, the sight was almost surreal. The water shimmered under the sunlight, reflecting the clear blue sky like a mirror. Cliff parked near the dock, feeling a rush of memories flood over him. There it was, where he spent countless hours with his father, casting lines and waiting for fish to bite. As they stepped out of the truck, Cliff glanced at his mother, who stood frozen for a moment, absorbing the scenery. "Are you ready?" he asked gently. She exhaled slowly, gathering her courage. "Yes, I think so." They walked toward the dock, hearing the gentle lapping of the water against the wooden posts, the familiar sound bringing a sense of calm. Cliff led his mother to the edge, where they could see the small boat tied up, its bright hull gleaming in the sunlight. It was a smaller version of the one his father had owned, but it held the same promise of adventure. Cliff untied the boat, his hands moving with practiced ease. "Let's get this ready," he said, his excitement infectious. He could feel his mother's apprehension begin to ease as she joined him. Once everything was in place, they climbed aboard. Cliff took the oars, and his mother settled beside him, her hands resting on her lap. They pushed away from the dock, a sense of freedom enveloping them, the gentle rocking of the boat reassuring. "Look at the water," Cliff said, glancing at his mother. "It's just like I remember." "Yes," she replied, her voice softer now, filled with awe. "It's beautiful." As they ventured further out, Cliff felt the weight of the world begin to lift. The sun warmed his skin, and the air was filled with the sound of birds chirping. Everything felt alive, brimming with possibility. They took a moment to anchor the boat in a quiet spot, surrounded by the serene beauty of nature. Cliff pulled out the photographs they had brought along, spreading them across his lap. "Let's share some stories," he said, a smile breaking across his face. With each photograph they examined, laughter bubbled up between them, and the heaviness of grief slowly lifted. They shared memories of fishing trips, family gatherings, and the simple joys of being together. Cliff watched as his mother's face transformed, the shadows of the past beginning to fade under the warmth of their shared laughter. Their laughter echoed across the water, mingling with the gentle sounds of nature, creating a symphony of healing. In that moment, The past that had once felt like a burden transformed into a shared experience of love and joy. "Do you think Dad would be proud of us?" Cliff asked, his voice filled with sincerity. "Absolutely," his mother replied, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "He would be so happy to see us together again, laughing and sharing stories." As they headed back toward the dock, Cliff realized that the memories they had shared were not just a way to honor his father, but also a way to embrace their own lives. They were learning to navigate the rough waters of grief together, finding strength in each other. Once back on land, they secured the boat and walked up the dock hand in hand. The air was filled with the scent of pine and lake water, and Cliff felt a sense of gratitude wash over him. They had faced the shadows of the past and emerged stronger, united in their love and memories. As they drove home, the sky turning a soft shade of twilight, Cliff glanced at his mother, who looked peaceful and content for the first time in a long while. "Thank you for doing this with me," he said softly, his heart full of love. "I'm so glad we did," she replied, her voice warm. It was time for both of us to face our past and embrace the memories we had shared. Cliff nodded, knowing that while there would be more conversations to come and more memories to uncover, they had taken a crucial step toward healing. The journey ahead would be filled with challenges, but together they would navigate the waters, drawing strength from the love that had always bound them. Later that evening, as they settled into their respective routines, Cliff felt a sense of clarity wash over him. He reached for the box of photographs now resting on the coffee table and opened it once more. Each image held a piece of their shared history, a reminder of the love that had once filled their home. In the following weeks, Cliff and his mother made a habit of revisiting those photographs, often sharing stories over cups of coffee at the kitchen table. Each session became a ritual, a time to recount cherished moments and reflect on lessons learned from their past. They spoke of resilience, love, and the importance of embracing both joy and sorrow as integral parts of their lives. One day, while sifting through the photographs, Cliff found an old scrapbook tucked away in the attic. It was filled with newspaper clippings, old tickets, and more photographs from their family's adventures. "Mom, come look at this," he called, excitement bubbling within him. His mother joined him in the attic, her eyes lighting up at the sight of the scrapbook. "Oh, I haven't seen this in years." Cliff opened it carefully, revealing a trove of memories. "Look at this one. Remember the county fair?" He pointed to a photo of himself, a wide grin on his face, clutching a giant stuffed bear. His mother chuckled, the sound light and free. "You were so determined to win that bear, you wouldn't stop until you got it." "I think I spent all my allowance trying to win it," he said, laughing. "But it was worth it." As they flipped through the pages, they found more photos. Cliff's first day of school, family holidays, and even a snapshot of a camping trip where his father attempted to roast marshmallows over an open fire. "He burned them all, but you still ate them anyway," his mother said, her voice filled with warmth. "Of course, I didn't care about the charred part. I just loved being out there with him," Cliff reflected. The scrapbook was a treasure trove, but it was also a reminder of the time that had passed. Cliff felt a pang of longing for those days, yet he recognized how far they had come. They had turned the page on the silence that once consumed them, and now were eager to share in the memories that told the story of their family. "Let's make a new scrapbook," Cliff suggested, a smile spreading across his face. "We can fill it with new memories, our fishing trips, family dinners, everything." His mother's face lit up at the idea. "I love that. It's a way for us to create something together, to celebrate life and the bond we share." With a plan in mind, they set out to gather materials for their scrapbook. They bought new albums, decorative paper, and stickers to help embellish their memories. It became a weekend project, a time for them to bond and create together. As they worked on the scrapbook, they began to capture moments from their daily lives, Cliff's logging adventures, his mother's cooking experiments, and even spontaneous outings. They would take photographs, print them out, and write little captions to accompany each picture, sharing the stories behind them. One Sunday afternoon, they ventured to a local diner for lunch, a place that had once been a family favorite. As they sat in a booth, the smell of burgers and fries wafting through the air, Cliff couldn't help but reminisce. "Dad loved this place," he said, his voice reflective. "He did," his mother agreed, a smile gracing her lips. "He would always order the special, and he'd insist you try everything on his plate." Cliff chuckled, recalling his father's adventurous palate. "I remember the time he dared me to try the chili. I thought I was going to breathe fire." They shared stories over their meals, laughter punctuating the air as they enjoyed each other's company. It felt like a homecoming of sorts, a return to the warmth and connection they had once shared. As weeks turned into months, Cliff and his mother continued to fill their scrapbook with memories, each page a testament to their journey, a journey of healing, rediscovery, and love. They embraced each moment, capturing not only the joyful times, but also the quiet moments of reflection that allowed them to process their grief. One evening, as they sat together flipping through the pages of their scrapbook, Cliff paused on a photograph of the two of them at the lake, hands raised in victory after catching their first fish together since their father's passing. "This one symbolizes so much," he said, a hint of emotion in his voice. "It does," his mother agreed, her eyes misting. "It shows how far we've come and how much we've grown." "It's proof that we can find joy again," Cliff added, "and that even amidst loss, love endures." His mother nodded, a gentle smile on her face. "You're right. I think your father would be proud of us." As they continued to share their memories, Cliff felt a renewed appreciation for the bond they had formed. They had faced their fears, confronted their pain, and emerged stronger, together. The shadows of the past no longer held power over them. Instead, they had transformed into stepping stones, leading to a brighter future. One day, while sitting in the garden with a gentle breeze blowing through the trees, Cliff decided to take a leap of faith. "Mom, I think we should take a trip together, somewhere we've never been. A place where we can create new memories, just like we did in the past." His mother looked thoughtful, her gaze drifting to the horizon. "I'd love that. Where do you think we should go? Maybe the coast? I've always wanted to see the ocean. We could rent a beach house, spend time exploring, and just enjoy being together," Cliff suggested, excitement bubbling within him. A smile spread across his mother's face as she considered the idea. "The ocean sounds wonderful. It would be a new adventure for us, a chance to connect with nature in a different way." With a plan forming, they began to look into their coastal adventure. They researched beach houses, planned activities, and made lists of everything they wanted to do. As they prepared for the trip, Cliff felt the thrill of anticipation building within him. The day of their trip arrived, and they set off early in the morning, the sun just beginning to rise. The drive to the coast was filled with laughter and music, a playlist of their favorite songs playing through the speakers. Cliff felt an unshakable sense of joy, knowing that this journey would be another step in their healing process. When they arrived at the beach house, Cliff and his mother stepped out of the car, the salty breeze hitting them instantly. The sound of waves crashing against the shore filled the air, and Cliff could see the vast expanse of the ocean stretching out before him. It was breathtaking. "Wow!" his mother exclaimed, taking in the beauty of the scene. "It's more beautiful than I imagined." Cliff grinned, feeling a surge of excitement. "Let's get settled in and then we can head to the beach." They quickly unpacked their bags and made their way to the shore, the golden sand warm beneath their feet. Cliff felt a sense of freedom as he ran toward the water, laughing as the waves crashed around him. His mother followed, her laughter mingling with the sound of the ocean. They spent the day exploring, collecting seashells, and taking pictures together. Cliff even convinced his mother to join him in building a sandcastle, their creativity flowing as they sculpted and decorated their sandy creation. It was a joyful experience, one that allowed them to reconnect and enjoy the simplicity of the moment. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the horizon, they found a spot on the beach to sit and watch the waves roll in. Cliff felt a sense of contentment wash over him, the beauty of the landscape reflecting the healing they had found together. "Thank you for coming here with me," he said, turning to his mother. "This means so much to me." "I'm grateful for this time together too," she replied, her voice soft and genuine. It feels like we're creating a new chapter for ourselves." Cliff smiled, knowing that they had turned a corner in their journey. They had embraced both their past and their present, allowing love and connection to flourish again. Later that night, after a dinner filled with laughter and stories, Cliff and his mother sat on the porch of their beach house, wrapped in blankets and sipping hot cocoa. The sound of the ocean played a gentle lullaby in the background, the stars sparkling overhead like promises of hope. "Do you think we'll come back here again?" his mother asked, looking out at the darkness of the water. "Absolutely," Cliff replied. "This place will always hold a special meaning for us. It's a reminder of our journey and how far we've come." "Yes," she agreed, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the porch light. "And it's a testament to the love we share." As they settled into the comforts of their surroundings, Cliff felt an overwhelming warmth in his heart. They had broken down so many barriers, transforming grief into understanding and pain into love. In the following days, they continued to explore, visiting quaint shops, tasting local cuisine, and walking along the shore. Each moment was a treasure, a building block for their new memories. On their final night, they returned to the beach once more, the moonlight casting a silver sheen over the waves. Cliff sat beside his mother, feeling grateful for the journey they had taken. "I'm so glad we did this," he said, looking at her. "Me too," she replied, her voice filled with emotion. "This trip has reminded me that while we've lost a lot, we still have so much to live for." They sat together in silence, the gentle sound of the waves lapping at the shore a soothing melody. Cliff felt a sense of hope blossoming within him, a belief that they could continue to navigate their grief while building a beautiful future together. As the moon rose high in the sky, Cliff took his mother's hand and squeezed it gently. "We'll always carry Dad in our hearts, but I'm ready to embrace everything we have now." She turned to him, the light of the moon reflecting in her eyes. "And so am I. Let's make sure to always cherish our memories while creating new ones." With their hearts open and ready, they returned to the beach house, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next, together. As dawn broke over the coast the next morning, the first rays of sunlight spilled through the windows of the beach house, illuminating the room with a warm glow. Cliff stirred awake, the scent of salt water and fresh coffee wafting through the air. He stretched and smiled, remembering the magical evening they had shared at the beach. The transformation of their relationship felt profound, as if the act of facing their past had opened a door to a new beginning. He shuffled into the kitchen to find his mother preparing breakfast, the gentle sound of frying eggs mingling with the rhythmic crash of the waves just outside. "Morning, sleepyhead," she called, a bright smile illuminating her face as she turned to greet him. "Morning, Mum. It smells amazing in here," Cliff replied, pouring himself a cup of coffee. He took a seat at the table, still feeling the warmth of their recent adventures. "I thought we could have a special breakfast today." "Pancakes with fresh berries and whipped cream," she said, her excitement palpable. Cliff grinned, watching her pour the batter onto the skillet. "Sounds perfect. I can already taste them." As they enjoyed their breakfast, a sense of contentment filled the air. They talked about their plans for the day, perhaps exploring the nearby coastal trails or visiting a lighthouse they had heard about. Every conversation felt light, unburdened by past grief, as if the act of sharing these moments together was forging an unbreakable bond. After breakfast, they decided to take a stroll along the beach before embarking on their day's adventure. Clad in comfortable clothes and sandals, they made their way to the shore, the sand warm beneath their feet. Cliff marveled at the beauty surrounding them. The ocean danced in the sunlight, and the sky was a brilliant blue, dotted with fluffy white clouds. "Let's collect some shells," Cliff suggested, pulling his mother toward the water's edge. "I bet we can find some unique ones." As they searched for shells, the simple act of hunting for treasures brought them joy. They laughed at the different shapes and colors, sharing stories about the shells their father had collected during their fishing trips. Each find sparked nostalgia, yet it also reinforced the new memories they were creating. "Look at this one," Cliff exclaimed, holding up a perfectly spiraled conch shell. "It's beautiful." His mother crouched down, inspecting it. It reminds me of the ones your father used to have on the mantel. He loved showing them off to everyone who visited. Cliff nodded, feeling a sense of pride in sharing these moments with her. Let's keep this one as a reminder of our trip. With their pockets filled with shells, they continued walking along the beach. The sound of the waves crashing against the shore was a comforting backdrop, soothing their souls as they embraced the lightness of the day. After a while, they reached a rocky outcrop where they spotted a lighthouse perched high on a cliff. "There it is," Cliff pointed, excitement bubbling within him. "Let's go check it out." The path leading to the lighthouse was lined with wildflowers, their vibrant colors adding to the beauty of the landscape. Cliff and his mother walked side by side, their hearts light and full of anticipation. Each step felt like a celebration of their renewed connection, a testament to the healing they had both undergone. When they reached the lighthouse, it towered above them, its white exterior gleaming in the sunlight. "It's even taller than I imagined," Cliff said, gazing up in awe. His mother smiled, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Let's go inside." They entered the lighthouse, the air cool and fresh. Inside they climbed the winding staircase, each step bringing them closer to the top. As they ascended, Cliff felt a mix of exhilaration and nostalgia. This was a place where they could capture memories and connect with their past while looking forward to their future. Once at the top, they emerged onto the viewing deck, and Cliff's breath caught in his throat. The panoramic view of the ocean was breathtaking. The turquoise waves crashed against the rocks below, and the horizon stretched endlessly in every direction. "Wow," he breathed, his eyes wide with wonder. "This is incredible." His mother stood beside him, her gaze fixed on the expansive view. "It feels like we're on top of the world," she said, her voice filled with awe. They leaned against the railing, taking in the beauty around them. Cliff glanced at his mother, noticing the way the sunlight illuminated her face, revealing the lines of worry and sorrow that had once marked her features. In that moment, he saw a woman who was beginning to reclaim her joy, a woman who was learning to embrace life again. "Can you believe how far we've come?" he asked softly, turning to her. "From the quietness of our house to standing here, together." "I can," she replied, her voice steady. "It's been a journey, but I think we needed this. We needed to face the past to find our way back to each other." Cliff nodded, feeling a swell of gratitude. "And we'll keep moving forward, right? Together?" "Always," she promised, placing a hand on his shoulder. After taking in the view for a while longer, they made their way back down, their hearts lightened by the experience. Outside the lighthouse, they paused, the salty breeze ruffling their hair. "Now what?" his mother asked, glancing at him with a playful smile. "Let's head back to the beach and have a picnic," Cliff suggested, his excitement bubbling up once more. "I packed some sandwiches and snacks." They made their way to a sheltered spot on the beach, laying out a blanket and unpacking the food. As they munched on sandwiches, they watched the waves roll in, the sun warming their skin. "Do you remember the time Dad tried to make a picnic on the beach?" Cliff asked, laughter spilling from his lips. "He forgot the utensils and had to use his fishing knife to cut the sandwiches." His mother chuckled at the memory. "He was so proud of that knife. It was like he was determined to make it work no matter what. I think he ended up cutting the sandwiches a little too thick, but we were all just happy to be together." "Exactly," Cliff laughed. "We were the most adventurous family even when things didn't go as planned." As they reminisced, a sense of peace enveloped them, a recognition that while they had lost their father, they still carried his spirit within them. The love he had shared with them would always be a part of their journey. Once they finished lunch, Cliff suggested they take a walk along the shore, collecting more shells and taking photos together. The afternoon was filled with laughter as they posed with silly expressions, capturing the joy of the moment. As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, painting the horizon with hues of orange and pink, Cliff felt a twinge of sadness, knowing their vacation was coming to an end. But alongside that sadness was the warmth of gratitude for the experiences they had shared. "Let's take one last photo together," Cliff said, pulling out his camera. He positioned it to capture both the sunset and them in the frame. They stood together, arms around each other, laughter in their eyes as the timer clicked down. "Ready?" he called out, and they both turned to face the camera, smiles wide and genuine. The camera clicked, capturing a moment in time, one that would serve as a reminder of their journey, their healing, and the love that surrounded them. Later that evening, as they returned to the beach house and settled in for a quiet dinner, Cliff couldn't help but feel grateful for their day. They shared stories, laughter, and even some tears as they reflected on the memories they had created. The evening air was filled with warmth, the weight of the past gradually lifting. As they prepared for bed, Cliff took a moment to step outside onto the porch, the stars twinkling above like distant beacons of hope. He could hear the gentle roar of the waves, a comforting reminder of the journey they had taken. "Hey, Mom," he called softly, and she appeared beside him, looking up at the stars. "Isn't it beautiful?" she said, her voice filled with wonder. "It is," he agreed. "And it feels like the perfect way to end our trip." "Yes," she echoed, her eyes shining. "I never thought I could feel this way again." Cliff smiled at her, feeling a surge of affection. "We did this together. I'm so proud of us." "Me too," she said, placing her hand over her heart. "You've helped me find my way back." As they stood side by side, Cliff felt a profound sense of connection to his mother. They had not only faced their grief, they had transformed it into something beautiful, a shared journey of love, healing, and new beginnings. "Let's keep this feeling with us," he said softly, "no matter where we go from here." "Yes," she replied, her voice strong and unwavering. "We'll always carry this with us." With a final glance at the stars, they headed inside, ready to embrace whatever the future held. Together they had created a new legacy, one that honored the past while embracing the beauty of the present. And as they closed the door behind them, Cliff felt a renewed sense of hope, knowing that their journey was just beginning. The sun rose the next morning, casting soft rays into the beach house, illuminating the remnants of their seaside adventure. Cliff awoke with a sense of peace, the memories of their shared laughter and the healing moments of the previous day still fresh in his mind. He could hear the distant sound of waves lapping at the shore, a soothing reminder of the tranquility they had embraced. As he made his way into the kitchen, he found his mother already up, her back turned to him as she prepared breakfast. The scent of bacon and eggs filled the air, mingling with the salty ocean breeze that filtered through the open window. "Good morning, Mom," Cliff called out, a smile breaking across his face. "Good morning, sleepyhead," she replied, turning to greet him with a bright smile. "I thought I'd make us a special breakfast for our last day here." "Sounds amazing," he said, pouring himself a cup of coffee. They settled into their comfortable morning routine, the warmth of the kitchen wrapping around them like a hug. After breakfast, they spent some time packing up their belongings, the air filled with a bittersweet mix of excitement and melancholy. Cliff felt a twinge of sadness at the thought of leaving, but he also knew that the experiences they had shared would stay with them long after they returned home. "Let's take one last walk on the beach," Cliff suggested, glancing at his mother. "I'd love that," she replied, her eyes sparkling with nostalgia. They stepped outside, the morning sun bathing the beach in golden light. As they walked along the shoreline, the sand warm beneath their feet, Cliff felt a sense of gratitude wash over him. Each wave that rolled toward them seemed to carry away the remnants of their sorrow, leaving behind only the joy of their newfound connection. "Do you remember the first time we came to the beach?" Cliff asked, kicking at the sand with his bare feet. "You said it was like our own little paradise." His mother laughed, her voice bright and free. "I do. You were so small, running around and trying to catch the waves. You thought you could outrun them." "I still think I could," Cliff joked, darting toward the incoming tide. He splashed water back at his mother, who laughed and chased after him. They spent the morning playing in the surf, the laughter echoing across the beach. Cliff felt lighter than he had in years, the weight of grief finally lifting. With each playful splash, he could feel the bonds of their past strengthening and transforming into something new. Eventually, they found a quiet spot to sit, the sound of the waves becoming a calming backdrop to their conversation. Cliff turned to his mother, his expression serious. "Mom, "I've been thinking. This trip has been amazing, and I really want to keep this momentum going. We could have regular adventures, maybe a weekend trip once a month." His mother smiled, her eyes filled with warmth. "I'd love that, Cliff. It will give us something to look forward to, a chance to create new memories." "Exactly," he said, excitement bubbling in his chest. "We could start exploring places we've never been. There are so many beautiful spots in the state we haven't seen." "Yes, and we can take pictures, just like we did here. We can fill our scrapbook with all these new experiences," she added, her enthusiasm matching his. They began to brainstorm different places to visit, from national parks to quaint little towns they had always wanted to explore. With each suggestion, their excitement grew, the prospect of new adventures fueling their spirits. As they sat there, Cliff couldn't help but reflect on how far they had come. The shadows of their past had not vanished entirely, but they no longer defined their relationship. Instead, they had become a part of their story, a story that was still being written, filled with love and resilience. After a while, they decided to head back to the beach house, ready to finish packing and check out. On their way back, the sun reached its zenith, casting a warm glow over everything. Cliff glanced over at his mother, who was taking in the beauty of the day. "Thank you for being so brave, Mom," he said sincerely. "This trip means more to me than I can put into words." She turned to him, her expression softening. "Thank you for encouraging me to face the past. I didn't realize how much I needed this until we were here." Once back at the beach house, they quickly packed up their belongings, the excitement of their next adventure propelling them forward. As they secured the last of the bags in the truck, Cliff took a moment to look back at the beach house, a sense of gratitude washing over him. "Goodbye for now," he whispered, knowing that this place would always hold a special place in their hearts. The drive back home was filled with laughter, music, and conversation about their future plans. Cliff felt a sense of anticipation as they shared ideas for their next adventure, each suggestion a promise of new memories. As they approached their hometown, the familiar sights brought a mixture of comfort and nostalgia. The weight of grief that had once hung heavily over them felt lighter now, replaced by the warmth of connection and hope. Once home, they unloaded the truck, the excitement of their day lingering in the air. Cliff's heart swelled with gratitude as they took a moment to reflect on their journey. "Let's make sure we keep this momentum going," he suggested, his voice filled with determination. "We can plan our next trip this week." "I'll start looking up destinations," his mother replied, a smile spreading across her face. "I want to make sure we choose somewhere special." As they settled back into their daily routines, Cliff felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was no longer just a logger lost in his work. He was a son, a partner in this journey of healing and discovery. Together, they had transformed their grief into a source of strength, and he was eager to see where their adventures would lead them next. In the weeks that followed, Cliff and his mother began to plan their next getaway. They spent evenings poring over maps and travel guides, narrowing down their options and dreaming of the experiences that awaited them. One quiet Sunday afternoon, they gathered around the kitchen table, a world map spread out before them. "What about this place?" Cliff suggested, pointing to a small coastal town known for its stunning cliffs and breathtaking views. "Looks perfect," his mother agreed, her eyes glinting with excitement. "It's a little further away, but the journey will be worth it." "Let's do it then. We can make it a weekend trip," Cliff said, jotting down notes. They spent the afternoon planning their itinerary, mapping out hiking trails and local attractions. Each destination felt like a new chapter waiting to be written in their story, a chance to build memories that would last a lifetime. As the days turned into weeks, excitement built for their upcoming adventure. Cliff could feel the anticipation radiating between them, a spark that illuminated their bond. On the day of their trip, they loaded the car with their belongings, the map and itinerary carefully tucked away. Cliff felt a rush of energy as they set off, the prospect of exploration filling him with joy. The drive to the coastal town was scenic, winding through forests and alongside rivers. They sang along to their favorite songs, laughter spilling into the air as they reminisced about their previous trip and the memories they had created together. When they arrived, The view took their breath away. The cliffs rose majestically above the crashing waves, and the salty breeze enveloped them like an embrace. Cliff felt a rush of gratitude. Once again, they were creating new memories together. As they set up their temporary camp, the excitement of the adventure ahead filled the air. They hiked along the cliffs, capturing breathtaking views, their laughter echoing against the rocks. Each moment felt like a gift, a reminder of the love they shared and the journey they had embarked upon. That night, as they sat around a small campfire, roasting marshmallows and sharing stories, Cliff realized how far they had come. They had faced their grief, transformed it into strength, and found solace in each other. They were no longer just a son and mother navigating loss. They were a team, ready to embrace whatever the future held. "Here's to new adventures," Cliff said, raising his marshmallow stick as if it were a toast. "To new memories," his mother echoed, her eyes shining in the firelight. With that, they savored the warmth of the fire and the bond they had forged, ready to face every new adventure together. As the night deepened and the stars twinkled overhead like scattered diamonds, Cliff and his mother sat by the campfire, the warmth of the flames casting flickering shadows around them. The sweet smell of toasting marshmallows filled the air, and the crackling wood provided a comforting backdrop to their evening together. They had shared stories, laughter, and moments of reflection, each deepening the bond that had grown between them. "Mom," Cliff began, his voice a soft murmur against the night, "do you think Dad would have loved this place?" His mother gazed into the flames, her expression thoughtful. "Oh, he would have adored it. He loved the ocean and the sound of the waves. This would have been his paradise," she replied, a hint of sadness creeping into her tone. "Do you think he's here with us right now?" Cliff asked, a flicker of hope in his heart. "I like to think so," she said, turning to him with a soft smile. "In moments like this, I feel his spirit all around us, encouraging us to find joy and adventure." Cliff nodded, feeling the warmth of her words wrap around him. "I miss him," he admitted quietly. "I do too, Cliff," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "But I also know he would want us to live fully. He wouldn't want us to be held back by our grief." Their conversation lingered in the air, a shared understanding of their journey and the loss that had shaped it. Cliff felt a sense of peace knowing they could honor his father's memory while continuing to create their own. The fire began to die down, and Cliff reached to adjust the logs, feeding the flames to keep their warmth alive. "Let's make a pact," he suggested, turning to his mother. "No more silence. We keep talking, sharing, and exploring together." His mother's eyes sparkled with agreement. "I'd like that. It's what your father would have wanted." With their hearts aligned, they decided to turn in for the night, retreating to their tent. Cliff nestled into his sleeping bag, listening to the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant roar of the ocean. He felt a sense of gratitude for the journey they had taken thus far. The next day dawned bright and clear, the sun bursting over the horizon and painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. Birds chirped cheerfully, heralding the start of another day filled with possibilities. Cliff and his mother emerged from the tent, refreshed and ready for more adventure. After a quick breakfast of granola bars and fresh fruit, they set out to explore the coastal trails. The path wound through lush greenery, leading them to breathtaking views overlooking the rugged cliffs and crashing waves below. "This is incredible," Cliff breathed, taking in the beauty of the landscape. "It's like we're on the edge of the world." "Just think of all the people who have stood here before us," his mother said, her voice filled with wonder. They continued along the trail, pausing often to snap photos of the stunning vistas. Cliff felt invigorated by their surroundings, each moment a reminder of how alive they both felt. As they reached a particularly scenic overlook, they found a bench nestled among the rocks, perfectly positioned for the view. "Let's sit here for a moment," Cliff suggested, taking a seat. "I need to take this all in." His mother joined him, and they sat in comfortable silence, letting the beauty of nature wash over them. The ocean stretched out before them, waves crashing against the rocks. "Cliff," she said after a moment, "thank you for encouraging me to come here. I didn't realize how much I needed this. I'm just glad we're together, Cliff replied, his heart swelling with affection. After some time, they decided to explore a nearby beach cove they had heard about. The hike down to the beach was steep but invigorating, and when they finally arrived, they were greeted by a secluded stretch of sand bordered by dramatic rock formations. "This feels like a hidden treasure," Cliff exclaimed, running toward the water's edge. His mother laughed, her joy reflected in her eyes. "Let's explore." They spent hours combing the cove, gathering unique shells and marveling at tide pools filled with colorful sea creatures. Cliff felt a childlike excitement welling up within him as he discovered a starfish clinging to a rock. "Look, Mom," he shouted, kneeling beside the tide pool. "It's so cool." "Let's take a picture," she said, joining him. As the sun began to set, casting an amber glow across the beach, Cliff and his mother found a quiet spot to sit and reflect on the day. The soothing sound of the waves created a serene atmosphere. "This has been one of the best days ever," Cliff said, gazing at the horizon. "Absolutely," she replied. "Each moment we share brings us closer." As they packed their belongings to head back to the campsite, Cliff felt a sense of completion wash over him. They had faced their grief and allowed it to transform into something beautiful, an enduring legacy of love and connection. With the stars beginning to twinkle overhead, Cliff realized that while the path ahead might still hold challenges, he was ready to embrace them. Together they would navigate whatever life had in store side by side, carrying the love of their past while forging a new future. "Let's head back," he said softly, taking his mother's hand. "I think we have a lot more adventures ahead of us." "Absolutely," she agreed, squeezing his hand tightly, "and I can't wait to see where this journey takes us next." Hand in hand, they walked back along the shore, feeling the warmth of the sand beneath their feet and the light of the stars above guiding their way home. With every step, they moved forward into a future bright with possibility, ready to embrace every adventure that awaited them. As the days turned into weeks, Cliff and his mother settled back into their routines, but the energy from their recent adventure lingered like the scent of the ocean on their skin. They often found themselves reminiscing about their trip, recalling the laughter and connection they had nurtured along the way. The pact they made by the campfire to keep exploring and sharing remained fresh in their minds. One afternoon, Cliff returned home from work to find his mother at the kitchen table, surrounded by travel brochures and maps. Excitement radiated from her. "Cliff, I've been thinking about our next adventure," she said, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. "Oh? What do you have in mind?" he asked, intrigued. "I found this beautiful national park not too far from here," she explained, spreading out a brochure depicting stunning landscapes, hiking trails, and wildlife. "Let's go there next weekend." Cliff felt his heart race. "That sounds amazing, I can't wait." With the plan set, the next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. Cliff gathered camping supplies while his mother meticulously planned their hiking routes. The anticipation built as the weekend approached, and when Saturday morning arrived, they set out early, the sun rising like a promise. The drive was filled with laughter and music, the playlist a mix of favorites and silly sing-alongs. Cliff felt a joy wash over him, each mile bringing them closer to the adventure ahead. Upon arriving at the park, the towering trees and expansive skies took their breath away. Cliff stepped out of the car, inhaling the fresh pine-scented air. "This place is incredible," he said, surveying the beauty around them. After quickly setting up camp, they decided to embark on a short hike to a nearby waterfall. The trail wound through the forest, the sounds of chirping birds and rustling leaves creating a serene atmosphere. With every step, Cliff felt their bond grow stronger, the shared experiences weaving them together. When they reached the waterfall, the sight was breathtaking. Water cascaded down the rocks, glistening in the sunlight. Cliff and his mother stared in awe, the beauty of it all washing over them. "Let's take a picture," Cliff suggested, pulling out his camera. They posed together in front of the waterfall, smiles wide and genuine, capturing yet another moment to add to their collection of memories. As they hiked back, Cliff felt a renewed sense of purpose. Each adventure was a step forward, allowing them to heal and embrace the love that remained. That evening, They roasted marshmallows over the campfire, sharing stories about their lives before the loss. The warmth of the fire mirrored the warmth in their hearts, highlighting just how far they had come since their initial journey to the beach. "Here's to more adventures," he said, raising his marshmallow stick in a toast. "To new memories," his mother echoed, her eyes filled with hope. As they settled into their sleeping bags that night, Cliff felt a profound sense of gratitude for the journey they had taken together. They had transformed their grief into love and connection, ready to face whatever lay ahead with courage and resilience. With dreams of future adventures dancing in their heads, they drifted off to sleep, the sounds of nature wrapping around them like a comforting embrace.